Edgar Cayce's prediction specifically for Mexico. One of the prophets for whom I've always held a profound respect ever since I was very young is Edgar Cayce, well known for the great precision of his visions. Among his most notable successes were his predictions for both the First and Second World Wars, as well as the prediction of an 80-year false peace, a period that is being fulfilled these days.
That's right, Carla. Edgar Cayce is a prophet who is very closely linked to some of the most significant events that have taken place in Mexico. Such as the oil expropriation.
He greatly influenced this event.
And the entirety of Mexico, it was one country before the oil expropriation, and then it totally transformed into a completely different nation after the oil expropriation. I remember that the PRI candidates for my entire life were accustomed to. Before starting the campaign, they would first go to the lady, Lázaro Cárdenas' wife, and if she didn't give her blessing. Yes, it came to change all of Mexico.
A very impactful influence.
And Edgar Cayce played a significant part in that. And I also believe that he will play an even greater role in the events that are about to unfold in Mexico, because he had mentioned an 80-year false peace, and that prophecy is currently being fulfilled.
I have the greatest admiration for him. However, comes from his vision within the scientific domain. Cayce believed the Earth itself is a living, breathing entity. That's a theory I wholeheartedly share. In the realm of magnetism, our research teams have confirmed, after decades of extensive study, that a deficiency of terrestrial magnetism in certain areas of the human body is directly connected to specific diseases. Nowadays, we have actually made significant advancements in the treatment of a variety of diseases through the application of terrestrial magnetism. Just as Cayce anticipated,
it's incredible, Carla. I personally have studied this phenomenon quite extensively, because beyond the significant discoveries concerning magnetism, Cayce made some truly incredible predictions that you really have to wonder about. How'd he do it? A significant lesson that quantum physics has brought to our understanding is that the intangible is indeed very tangible. Our thoughts. Our thoughts, we don't see them, but they do cause things to happen. They cause 1,000 things, 1,000 effects. It's much like an atom. No one has ever directly seen an atom, but we can clearly witness the consequences it creates and what it ultimately builds. Do you understand? So if space-time, it is. I mean, someone can travel in space-time. And that they did travel in space-time.
Impressive.
Yes, some other individuals have traveled, but not in quite this manner. Cayce approached it in a very scientific and extremely professional manner. For his time, to have a conversation about the topic of magnetism a whole century ago, nobody knew what he was talking about, and to talk about these things. A peace that was going to last, a false peace that would last 80 years, well, nobody knew what he was talking about. At this moment, we understand it because we truly lived through that 80 years of false peace. And not only that, We are seeing that the 80 years have already transpired, and what comes next?
What's next, right? Because he only gave us this prediction for 80 years, so what can we expect?
And yet, something he mentioned was that Mexico was destined to unveil a novel form of energy. Let's continue on to the next topic now.
That's it. In Mexico, during the oil expropriation that occurred in 1938, Edgar Cayce collaborated closely with the government, acting as a pivotal force in solidifying one of the most transcendental presidential terms in the nation's modern history. Just as you mentioned, Doctor, the point being that he would be making significant references to pivotal events that would profoundly impact Mexico, specifically in the year 2025. I mean currently, Doctor.
You know, Carla, I've actually studied this myself, along with foreigners, specifically with Germans and others, right there at NASA. The matter of the oil expropriation. Yes, it truly was the perfect time to carry out such an action, if it had indeed been done. In those days, England would have declared war on us because they weren't as threatened by Germany at that point. And if they had done it at a later time, perhaps even the United States would have declared war on us because they were going to need the oil as a strategic matter for the Second World War. It was the moment that you say, historically speaking, we only had that particular window of opportunity to carry it out. And that's precisely when it got done. It's one thing, we thoroughly estimated the probabilities, and they turned out to be less than 1 in a million to be exact.
And this is thanks to the collaboration of Cartesi, definitely.
I am truly beginning to take all of this very seriously at this point indeed. The 80 years of predicted peace have passed, and you can already see that they're being interrupted by something big that's coming. But there are also some incredible predictions about Mexico. What's happening? A business associate of mine mentioned to me a year ago, if I had told you 10 years ago that the Mexican peso was going to revalue against the dollar, they would have had me committed to a mental institution.
Of course it would sound crazy, right?
Even if we're all still anticipating devaluations that simply aren't occurring, quite the contrary, the currency isn't depreciating, and that's not. And at the rate it's going, I just don't see an end in sight. I don't see an end in sight to this. And Mexico is acquiring tremendous global importance, exactly as Edgar Cayce had foretold in his predictions.
An extraordinary prediction now living. Similar to many shamans and protectors of sacred sites in Latin America, Cayce also spoke about the coming return of the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl. Kukulkan, a symbol of the transmission of wisdom and energy in pre-Columbian cultures. This return should not be interpreted as a literal occurrence, but rather as a reawakening of the ancestral energies within the Latin American peoples. Especially in Mexico, we envision the emergence of a new clean energy source. This is aimed at significantly lessening our reliance on polluting fossil fuels, and at the same time, establishing the nation as a global forerunner in technological advancements. What do you think, Doctor?
The prophecies of Edgar Cayce are indeed coming true, right before our very eyes.
We are very close.
And let me tell you, these were truly irrational prophecies considering the era in which they were originally uttered. Wouldn't you agree? Mexico was in a state of utter economic and political devastation when he shared those prophecies. Mexico is a country that no one would have ever anticipated to find itself in the position it currently occupies, where we find ourselves today. And also, when I'm speaking about Mexico, I'm largely talking about Latin America. Latin Americans, I lived in the United States. I studied in the US. And Latin Americans, this is what I mean. We don't really coexist or interact much with each other in our daily lives here. However, when we are residing in the United States, we bond more closely than even siblings, transforming into a true family unit. Latin Americans may not be physically united, but spiritually, mentally, and culturally, we are incredibly connected. So when I speak of Mexico, I'm referring somewhat to Latin America.
Certainly, yes. We know how to establish that connection, don't we? All of the Latin American people.
Whether you find yourself in a major metropolis like Los Angeles, or a bustling hub like Chicago, or even across the ocean in France, say Paris or Geneva, see someone attack a Latin American and you'll step in.
Totally agree. This process is already underway, Doctor. The secret mental techniques, which have been widely adopted by more than 5 million Latin Americans, are now truly beginning to bear fruit and show significant progress.
Yes. Yes, Carla, I just want to make an observation here. I have individuals here who are working quite directly on this matter, and there are individuals who have already dedicated over 100 hours to mental techniques, and I say to them, all right, tell me 10 secret mental techniques. They can't come up with all of them, Carla. Why? Because the subconscious mind is very clever. It makes you believe you know something when you don't. It's like when you read a book. Suddenly you find yourself thinking about other things, and then you say, what did I read? And you look again and you hadn't read anything, you were somewhere else. The subconscious mind is very deceptive. So, if you tell me this is the thing, I don't understand anymore. A lot of people tell me I don't understand them. Well, you don't grasp them because you haven't truly delved into studying them, not even a single time. You need to study these techniques multiple times and ensure that your subconscious mind isn't preoccupied with other thoughts, but rather that your conscious mind is completely focused.
Completely focused. Totally.
Conscious, using the conscious mind.
That's certainly true, Doctor. In this current global context, major powers such as the United States are indeed facing significant problems with their national debt, which is carrying a debt burden of nearly 3 times its gross domestic product. The United Kingdom and France with almost double, China and Japan in similar situations. Mexico, in fact, stands out significantly with a debt burden equivalent to a mere 30% of its gross domestic product, and boasts corporate debt levels that are remarkably minimal when compared internationally.
Yes, we are currently in an incredible situation. No one could have predicted this. Mexico, just like Latin America, is quickly becoming the envy of the world. We don't and shouldn't have to carry the same debt burdens as developed countries. This is rapidly becoming an extremely critical issue because the profit margins of companies are significantly declining, and this transformation is profoundly impacting the entire global economic landscape. This situation is so important because it's changing the whole economic situation worldwide. And that's precisely what's going to make Latin America flourish.
Doctor, our innovative technology, which is rooted in terrestrial magnetism, promises not only to save billions of dollars within the healthcare sector, but it also paves the way for an entirely new energy source that is capable of significantly boosting Mexico's wealth and economic power even further. This will further contribute to the strength of the super peso, Doctor, which is already globally recognized as one of the most robust currencies.
Definitely, Carla. We are truly living in an incredible historical era that was predicted for us by Edgar Cayce. And we must seize it. We must use it. We must cast aside other conflicts and instead truly concentrate on the inherent inner strength of us, Latin Americans, and together we can genuinely bring this initiative to fruition.
Yes, to continue developing this technology based on magnetism, Doctor. In this context, Doctor, each of us must adequately prepare by mastering the secret mental techniques that have been previously mentioned to take advantage of the historical opportunities that are already emerging in Latin America. It is no mere coincidence, Doctor. Billions of years ago, our ancestors utilized the energetic knowledge that is still reflected in the pyramids, intended to be genuine energy reactors. This is knowledge that was hidden away due to the conquest, but is now starting to re-emerge.
Right, Tyler. We once were an extraordinary civilization, truly extraordinary. Machu Picchu. Tiahuanaco, absolutely not. We accomplished some achievements that are not even spoken of in Teotihuacan. Some marvelous achievements. They are finding mercury in Teotihuacan, is that right? Which is specifically designed to generate anti-gravity. This means that we possessed highly advanced scientific knowledge, and now we are living in this significant historical period that we absolutely must seize and make the most of. We Latin Americans now more than ever have to get our act together and take advantage of it.
Yes, right, Doctor. So, Doctor, therefore, do not allow your subconscious mind to continue sabotaging you. Instead, fully dedicate yourself to diligently studying the secret mental techniques. Ensure a distinct future for your family and their descendants, filled with many opportunities. It is time for us as human beings to move past the idea of defeat and truly embrace our inherent capabilities and what we were meant to be. A species that is truly incredibly industrious, super intelligent, and extremely creative, and that we humans live on one of the most spectacular planets in the entire universe.